What's up, y'all? I got myself another Kizer here, and this is another one that I purchased for the blade steel. This is definitely not a brand new knife, but hey, it does use Richlite as the handle material, which I'm happy about. To have another one there besides the Towser K that I've dealt with in the past, and this one is much more red coral kind of look to it, a little maroonish. The reason I have the box here is I didn't realize at first, but I'm guessing that this one isn't considered a Vanguard series. And the reason I say that is because it has their kind of magnetic box opening here, rather than the cheaper little plastic insert. And comes with a little pouch here. That was the bag that it came in. And also contains not the bearings, but another complete set of hardware for it in there. So that's a little bit more akin to their higher end packaging. So yeah, I just kind of thought that was a little interesting. This thing wasn't crazy expensive. I think it was about $100. I think I paid just a little under that. And yeah, this is a little bit smaller of a knife than I usually end up purchasing. But hey, this one was one that I was interested in for the CPM-4V that's in here. 3V is very, very popular and an amazing steel to have in some fixed blades, especially for bushcrafting and things like that. It's one of the more preferred steels out there right now. And a lot of companies end up doing stuff with it. Cold Steel also does quite a few things in 3V. You're going to pay for it, though. And I suppose you're also paying for it here, because this was about, what, 90 or 100 bucks? And this is, it's 2.78 inches. So, yes, a lot smaller. This is obviously a Lundquist design here. Jason Lundquist. We have a deep carry clip going on the back there. A little bit different than their standard one is. We got their liner there that's you do have just a little tiny bit of cutout for liner access there. This is a front flipper only. And I am going to go on record and say, and pardon my French, but Jesus titty fucking Christ, this thing is a nightmare to be able to reprofile. I've reprofiled it down to 15 degrees, and you can still see I have just a little bit of rolls here that I still need to end up ironing out. And that's literally after spending hours on this with my 220 and 320 grit stones, diamond stones on this thing. So this thing probably has quite the ridiculous amount of edge retention. It's black blade because, well, the single digit V's are not stainless steels. But that being said, even with the rolls, it still slices ridiculously now that I actually have a decent edge on there. Obviously, like I showed, it's not perfect, and it will probably take me another 2 hours to fix those little things there. Not really looking forward to that, but it is what it is. So yes, this thing really gave me a difficult time for it. Much more difficult time than I spent with the CPM-10V in this sheepdog over here. But yeah, let's go ahead and cover this. This is using Richlite for the handle material. If you're not familiar with it, it's it's a name brand product. It's fairly Micarta-esque in its construction, but it's basically using it's like a paper micarta, but obviously it's a little bit different there. You can see variations and stuff like that. It's not a super crazy homogeneous mix. And more often than not, it's actually used for countertops and things of that nature. So it is pretty darn durable stuff. Probably wouldn't try to use it as a cutting board material, just to cut down onto it, like somebody might do on if they had some counters made out of it. But still a very, very, very nice material. Really has that nice kind of grippy and smooth kind of feeling like micarta does. But yeah, it's much more paper-based rather than fabric. So you can do a little bit more interesting stuff with it. If you're actually going to manufacture a lot of it, like I said, it is a name brand product. You could probably do some paper micartas and do some other sort of stuff there, but it wouldn't be called Richlite. But this does have a smaller pore structure than a lot of micartas do, and some of the stuff in there does kind of add to its microbial or antimicrobial nature. So it's, I guess, a little bit more safe to pass around to other people rather than micarta that might pick up whatever they have on their gross ass hands. So that should probably help out a little bit, but only if you're really handing the darn thing out. We do have a bit of a crown spine on here, so that's kind of nice. And it does really, really nice job of flicking open. It's a wiggle shut, and a lot of that comes down to the fact that this isn't an enormous blade having a lot of gravity to pull it down. Speaking of which, yeah, this thing is under 2 ounces, which is pretty darn good, because it's got a 2.78-inch blade on this guy. Right? Yes. Making sure I'm not giving you the stats for another knife I have written down here. So yeah, it's definitely under that ounce and inch mark. As you can see, it's about as neutral as it can get, just slightly tapering down to a little bit thinner portion at the back there. And if you do end up choking up here, which you have jimping, so it's kind of designed for, I could actually get a nice, basically 3 3/4, 3.5 inch grip on there. Very, very nice for me to actually get a lot of power on there. But yeah, it's mostly designed to be basically a 3-finger knife for most folks out there, myself included. It's got a little bit of the jimping there, back further, so that makes me grip it further back. That makes it a 3-finger rather than a 3.5-finger. But yes, very, very nice as far as the grind on this thing goes. Just a little touch under what most of Kizer stuff is 2.95 millimeters rather than 3 or 3.2 that they do most of their stuff in. And, well, that's perfectly fine there. We have a very, very simple construction. We have a single back spacer there with a lash point, deep carry pocket clip that does have a little bit of channel cut out in there. You can't reverse that, unfortunately, but I'm sure they did that to have just a cleaner look there on the show side. And of course, we do have the pivot there. The liners in here, we have some creative skeletonization going on the straight side, and basically none on that lock side. But still, like I said, this is under 2 ounces for a close to a 3-inch knife. So still very, very nice and light and nimble and all those other kind of words that you would probably use to describe that. It is a little thin, 0.44 inches, so definitely thinner than a PM2 or a Para 3 that's right around half an inch. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's a bit on the small side, I will say that. It's definitely designed to be that way. Very small, and also the way that pocket clip is going, it probably works quite well. Yeah, it does. In your front pocket, in case you actually wear some front pocket or shirts that have that sort of stuff. In my case, t-shirts really aren't long enough for my really, really unusually long torso. So more often than not, I'm wearing a polo shirt of some sort, so I always have a front pocket. It's usually where my phone goes, but hey, I can actually put that in a pen and stuff in there if I wanted to. So yes, that is definitely something that is a giant pain in the ass. What this thing is actually trying to get this thing nice and profiled up. As far as sharpening it, obviously, if you're trying to conform to the same angle, then you're going to have a much better time. So, yeah, I would say unless you absolutely wanted to do a 15-degree angle on this, like as I'm seeing now under the light, most of the way through, but not all of the way through, unfortunately, then I would say leave it alone, because this stuff is next to impossible to work with. But that should end up working out to an incredible amount of wear resistance, so edge retention. And hopefully that's the case. Not a whole lot else to really say about this thing. I did mention the crown spine on there, so that's kind of nice. I do appreciate kind of those little touches when they're done there. And I do appreciate that I can get a full grip on this thing, even though it's much smaller than a lot of other knives out there. The action, like I said, could be better. Partially, that is because of the black blade on there. As I'd mentioned before, CPM-4V is not a stainless steel at all. So, the only way that they felt comfortable sending these things out was with a black blade. I don't remember what the coating was on here. Yeah, my mind keeps going back and forth. I know they've stated it at some point, and I don't remember if it's DLC or if it's titanium carbonitride that they've coated them with. Since I got that mixed up with a couple other companies when they were doing a lot of talks during SHOT Show. So, yeah, like I said, I will leave that down in the description once I actually confirm that, rather than saying it out here, because no matter what I say, I got a 50% chance of being absolutely wrong. So I will let it go at that. Yeah, pocket clip is nice. It does kind of loop up a little bit, but it's got a decent amount of spring to it, and really does kind of just get out of the way. It's as you can see here, it lands right there in the fingers, so I'm not really feeling it all that much. Still, it has that deep carry sort of thing, so it can dig in a little bit, but it's the most egregious when it's backing on my pinky knuckle, which this really doesn't end up doing. So hey, it works out pretty well. This thing obviously is not designed for super hard tasks. Between the liners here that are nested into the Richlite, and yeah, just the construction on it. Obviously, this is more of a gentleman's and office and light duty kind of carry, not a crazy hard use knife. But I tell you, once you actually get this thing sharp, I mean, it was sharp out of the box, but, if you are interested in doing that whole reprofile thing, once you get it to where you want it to be, I do really assume this thing's going to keep that edge for a heck of a long time. So I guess the difference between 3V and 4V was basically 3V has a little bit more toughness, whereas 4V has a little bit more edge retention. And that's why 3V is usually used for fixed blades, and it works out fantastically for that because of the amount of toughness that has for doing some crazy things. Hammering it into a stump and using it as a step and, all sorts of the other stupid, crazy stuff that you can do with it. Whereas this trades a little bit of that for a little bit more edge retention, which makes a little bit more sense, I think, in a folding knife. So I was excited to be able to give that a try. So, yeah. All right. That's basically everything that I have for the standard review. So if you're not interested in kind of looking up inside this thing, then I appreciate y'all for watching. And I will continue on here for those of you who want to stick through this. We got T6 screws for the pocket clip. That's very, very same for basically everything from Kizer. This back barrel spacer is a T6, not a T8. But the pivot's a T8. So yeah, we can pop that out, and we can see the inside of it with the different channels there. We can see up top here as well that it does look like we do have a blade-mounted stop pin, and yes, we do. This has some KPL heavy basically on there. It looks like I've added just a bit too much. But yeah, I do like to have it basically ride the whole way there. I'll put a little tiny bit right up, right before the detent hole, and then, you know, open and close that a few times, and I guess as a Canadian say, Bob's your uncle, you're good, and you got everything greased up correctly. This is using brass caged ceramic bearings. And now that I think about it, I'm a little curious on the pivot size on this guy here. It's a 5mm pivot. Okay. Wasn't sure because Lundquist is an American designer if they were going to use Imperial or metric, but they went metric, so that definitely makes sense since you know, most people outside of the States don't really have you know, Imperial industrial machines, which is generally believed to be the reason why we're so stubborn and won't switch over to the metric system, because we still have a ton of machinery that's in use that was all designed and created and tooled for Imperial measurements. So we would have to replace tons of stuff throughout our whole country to be able to adopt the metric system for a lot of that stuff. And I don't want to do that because that's going to cost millions of dollars at this point. So that is, yeah, kind of widely believed to be one of the large deciding factors on why us Americans keep up with our imperial measurements. And Britain does with some things. I don't quite get that. And they're like, yeah, the metric system. But we still, I mean, they still refer to their weight in stone, which is strange because those are like, what, 20 pounds a piece? And but they also use kind of a little bit of both. Like they're well versed in kilometers as well as miles, and kind of use both of those kind of measurements for cars and things like that. So yeah, a little interesting, but I'm just kind of rambling a little bit while I'm putting this back together. But yeah, it basically is. The pivot is a bit tighter than it really needs to be. Now it's much less tight. There we go. Yeah, nice and back together. So yes, some people do like doing some crazy things like using their index finger to try and open a front flipper. Which to me, this one's just a little bit small to be able to do that, but I can with some of the larger ones. Some people also like to open them up from the front. I try that and drop the knife almost every time, so I'm not super well versed in it. But yeah, it's just as far as using it the way that they were originally intended, works out super nice. I don't think I can drop it out too easily, but yeah. All right, well, that was the disassembly there. So that concludes basically everything that I wanted to talk about. So if you've stuck around this far, certainly appreciate it. And as always, have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo.